Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mark Galvin, the Director of Marketing with Discover Dunwoody. You have joined us for another conversation with one of our local dignitaries, and I am absolutely thrilled to introduce all of you to Dr. Johann Weber. Doctor, I will not call you doctor for the rest of the interview.
Good. I appreciate that.
So right before we started talking today, I asked him, I said, why don't you go by doctor? And he's just, it's just something that I think that in the right setting it works. But now that I know you're a doctor and went to school for 10 years to earn that, I will use that a little more sparingly when we have a conversation.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't spend the 10 years just to have the title. It's just fun. It's just fun.
So you got a PhD in what?
In public policy. So I was interested originally in sort of sustainability, climate, some of these things, but I really gravitated over time towards transportation as my specific area.
Which is why he's with us today. You are with the Perimeter Community Improvement District, and I had to look down to make sure I say it right because it's the PCID for me, and I know the PCID really well because coming off of 285 and you get to that intersection where there's the red light, it's always red when I get off, and there's the little icon on the edge of the Ashford Dunwoody sign that has the PCID logo. Why is that logo there?
That's a great question. The logo, I think, actually says a lot. If you look at it, it looks sort of like a little bridge. It's actually a sort of a metaphor, a visual of the 285-400 interchange itself. It's an indicator of the location you're in, but it also reflects the CID's focus on infrastructure as its kind of core mission and purpose. So the PCIDs, as we all know and refer to it, it's a sort of quasi-governmental organization. It's an association of all of the commercial properties in this little business district. So this little sliver of Dunwoody, a piece of Sandy Springs, actually a little tiny corner of Brookhaven, and its responsibility is to serve those commercial properties by investing in infrastructure improvements, programs, and services to make it a more competitive area, particularly an easier one to get into and around, to help it be just a stronger and more vibrant economic hub.
And those words to me, they're really broad. There are a lot of things that you can do to impact the area economically. But it does seem like the PCID seems to focus on that transportation sector. Is that true?
Yeah, transportation is by far the big emphasis area. Okay. We're not a chamber of commerce. Our responsibilities to serve those property owners and their tenants, the employers, retailers, office employers, restaurants, kind of anyone who's working in the district or often, is a customer of those. We are interested in supporting that activity, but the primary avenues for that are infrastructure or transportation programs and services first and foremost.
Good. Who's paying the bill? You guys are, you're not a nonprofit. Well, there may be, you're quasi, you may be, right?
Sort of a bit of both, yeah.
But where do you get your revenue to do the great work you do?
So the CID's revenue comes from a millage rate, an additional property tax that all of the commercial properties in the area pay. And it's only commercial properties, but that provides a large pool of revenue. And then obviously the CID works with other partners to execute its program. So everything is usually a collaboration with a city government or a state government, sometimes a federal project. Our team specifically at Perimeter Connects, we're a program of the PCIDs. We also get some large pot of grant revenue from the Atlanta Regional Commission.
Okay.
So they're a key funding partner for us.
Got it. This is really great. So as a resident, I'm not having to, none of my tax dollars are going to support your efforts, but you greatly impact me as a resident here. Yeah. One of the ways that we are greatly impacted in our area is 285 and 400. It's in the logo. It's so important. So many things going on. Everybody's always asking the same question, and I like to ask it this way. When will the pavement be permanent on 285 and 400?
So the good news is that a surprising amount of it is already the permanent pavement. We have, despite kind of the pinch that we all felt in the fall when the 285 lane closures began, the general amount of progress is actually quite staggering. So if you find your way on 400 you're experiencing a lot of the new capacity that's been added. Much of 285 traffic now is getting to take advantage of all of the new collector distributor lanes. That's the fancy name for all of the parallel lanes where you do all the merging and mixing on.
Yeah.
And that separation of those new lanes across the entire project, that's 8 fewer merge conflict zones. So all those times when you're driving on a freeway and you're merging and someone's trying to merge the other way and you're like, this is terrible, this doesn't feel like it's working, that moving those things off to the side and trying to make those smoother and less staggered in one spot, that's a core goal of the entire reconstruction. And much of that, basically the vast majority of that improvement is already on the ground.
Wow, that's great.
So, yeah. The rest of it, to your core question, when
Before
do we
you
get
go to the rest of it,
Okay.
I want to ask you, are we seeing an improvement yet?
So before we had the 285, the closures on 285, which restricts things and has obviously led to some slowdowns.
And that's one lane. So 285 lost one lane going through the district.
One lane in each direction. Yeah, it's sort of. I like to think of it more as two because they had to do some earlier constricting. So there's one
okay.
fixed lane closure at its kind of central point, but there was some additional kind of constricting that won't be its final form.
Got it.
So but once you're actually going through it down the road, it will have even more space than that.
Perfect. And so right now it's 3 lanes going through currently. And that eventually, as you travel through the area when it's finished, it'll be 4 lanes? Is that right?
4 lanes, but 5 in most spaces.
Wow,
There's
okay.
just a little piece that will be 4.
All right, good. And then the collector distributor lanes, I have been driving along and I've seen 3 to 4 lanes just in that space.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't like to think of it as just 4 lanes. It's really almost like 8 lanes across, but the good news is that the locals aren't going to interfere with the through traffic.
Yeah, and that's really the big thing, because we've all experienced this in any freeway anywhere, but especially Metro Atlanta. Just adding lanes doesn't really solve a problem long term.
Right.
We all just fill it up, right? We're
Right.
like, oh, great, it's smoother, now we drive more. But those actual conflict points, those are the things that really, really, really impact how everything moves.
Well, and I've absolutely seen that. The places where cars are merging onto the highway inevitably slows down the main traffic.
Yes, yeah, and so, basically tackling those throughout 400 and 285 as you're coming into and out of this major interchange, that is a huge boon. We're already seeing that pan out. We've seen a lot of stories from folks who are making those movements from Ashford, Dunwoody here, just outside, down onto 285. That movement is smoother than I think it's been in the entire time I've lived in Metro Atlanta. So,
That's good.
Yeah, that's great progress.
I cut you off. You were going to say before we lost a lane for the bridge closures, you were seeing an improvement in traffic.
Yeah, we were seeing morning speeds, which obviously morning is generally amongst our most congested. And we were seeing morning speeds that were faster than they had been pre any time in the last few years, but also much faster than they were pre-COVID.
Wow.
So all of that is good news that we're expecting, as these lane closures complete and everything else is permanent pavement, as you said, that things should be moving smoothly. Obviously, incremental progress, but it should be a noticeable improvement for folks as they're driving through.
It's great. Are they on target?
On target it's a moving target. Are
they on target for that moving target, so to speak? Yeah.
It is, to be fair, it's the state's, one of the states at the time that it started, the state's largest infrastructure project ever. So, our sort of expectations for how timely things will be or how many unexpected things will come up, I think, have to be sort of couched in it's hard to plan for something that's bigger than anything you've ever done before. But at this point, we're still on target to have, I think, all of the permanent pavement done before the end of the year. There will be a lot still to do after that. A lot of finishing work and landscaping and other pieces still. There will still be cones. But it should feel really smooth. It should feel like it's working really, really well before the end of the year. And,
Bravo.
We're
so
moving
cool.
quick. So.
And I think this is important to highlight. You and I talked about this one-on-one before, that there will be cones. It'll look like it's not finished, except it really is.
Yeah.
There will still be hazards and things like that, but we'll see a great improvement even before all the landscaping is done and all the cones are yanked and pulled.
Yeah. It'll be
That's
sort
great.
of like after the after the storm, when the rain has stopped, you still hear all the rain pouring through the gutter, but you're like, oh, it's nice out now.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. I was going to tell you, I'm just thrilled they opened up the Ashford-Dunwoody exit coming from the east side of town, because when that was shortened and it was a one lane,
Yeah.
I realized then how 2 lanes on an exit can make a humongous impact. And
Yeah.
Ashford-Dunwoody was so much better after that. Well, anyway, enough about my own personal commute. Let's talk about commuting in general. It is extremely important. It's one of the focuses that you guys spend a lot of time on.
Yeah.
And I understand in essence, commuting matters, and understanding that getting shorter times to get to work is better, but it's deeper than that.
Yeah.
Why do you guys spend so much time just focusing on commuting?
I mean, I think that's a really interesting question, and to be fair, I think we are increasingly interested in all sorts of trips as they engage with and involve this district. The commute is an anchor for us because it is the most consistent trip that people have.
Sure.
It's also the time that we generally see the greatest amount of delay and the greatest impact on people making their way in and out of and around this district is those peak commute times. The commute is at its essence the kind of core vehicle, pardon the pun, by which people experience any sort of economic opportunity, right? And getting to work is fundamental to being able to work. So this entire region has for so long benefited from, and I mean the metro region, not just our district, has benefited from the accessibility that we have as a place, the physical infrastructure, the transit. All of these pieces are the way that people have the opportunity for new work, for better work, for all these opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
And continuing to make those improvements is and prioritize those folks is really, really essential to being able to have the kind of regional growth and an equity and opportunity that I think we all feel like is really fundamental to the idea of Atlanta and Georgia.
It's so interesting. And so you're not talking about just the people that are in a car.
Yeah.
We have to look forward to, what does this area look like in 30, 40, 50 years?
Yep.
And there's going to need to be some alternates besides just cars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's only so much that we can do just geometrically. I mean,
Right.
There's only
just
so
not
much
enough space.
Yeah.
Space is a big issue. You can make a highway 8 lanes wide and it'll just get filled with cars. At a certain point, how do you manage that? And that's really at the core of what you guys look at doing. We did a survey of asking all the people working in the perimeter area, what's important to you, what bothers you about commuting, will you consider these other parts of commuting? And that strikes at really the mission you guys are challenged with.
Yeah, to make commuting better requires both talking about construction and supporting the many the majority of folks who drive in, but also really taking proactive steps to support all of the other ways that people can get into the district and around it. Transit is a huge piece for us. We're the beneficiaries of an enormous historical investment in the past to provide us access to the MARTA line. I think, frankly, that has been a huge piece that's afforded the development that this entire district has.
I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure the State Farm building is where it is because of the MARTA station.
Yeah, I think they would confidently say the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is exciting to see all this comes together, and I think that you are making a difference. I do remember driving down Ashford-Dunwoody, and many times of the day was a nightmare. Got stuck in it, and literally stuck in it for a good 20 minutes just on Ashford-Dunwoody, and I see that movement is much better, especially with the bridge on Ashford-Dunwoody. What's that called again?
The Diverging Diamond.
Diverging Diamond. I always get that confused. So that seems to move traffic along much better too.
We're
so
getting another one.
Where else? Which other bridge?
We're getting a Diverging Diamond at Abernathy. So just into the Sandy Springs side, but a key channel by which a lot of folks find their way into Dunwoody.
And that is how you guys know this. How many cars travel over a lot of our bridges in a day, approximately?
Oh, I
didn't take you come with data, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head for any one of the access points, though. Yeah, we definitely do have that data. But I know that we have 200,000 vehicles that pass through on 285, like just in our area through perimeter. So
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
200,000. You told me once, because I asked you a very specific number, I wanted to know how many cars drove by the front of the Crown Plaza Ravinia in a day, and you said it's north of 40,000 cars in one day.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just incredible. 40,000, that is, as an example, the stadium that the Falcons play in, Mercedes-Benz, holds over 75,000, maybe 78,000. To think that half of those, that number, are just driving up and down.
Yep.
Ashford, Dunwoody in a particular day is amazing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just one of our major roads. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so multiply that out. One of the things that you're focused on doing is making a location desirable, right? Making it a place that people want to live. If I cannot get in or out of a neighborhood and I'm thinking about moving into Atlanta, moving here for work, I may choose not to come here, for example. And part of all of that comes together and it defines a good place, right?
Yeah.
A good place to live, just general, a good place. What makes a good place in your book?
So this is one of my favorite questions because I don't think the answer stays static all the time. It kind of evolves with our values and priorities as a culture. But it's a really defining and driving question for us because the commute is increasingly not, I don't want to say voluntary, but for so many of our workers, we have somewhere between 100 and 150,000 workers in this district. And the vast majority of those work in offices, and the vast majority of those are now on hybrid schedules. They have some choice about when they come in, what days, how often. And, employers sort of in the mix for dictating some of it. But for those organizations as well, there is this sense that is this a place that we choose to be? In the same way you mentioned, where you choose to live. All of those things are not just about, is it easy to get in and out? That's important. And if we make a place that you can't get into, then it doesn't matter how nice it is.
Right.
But on the other side of that is, you're willing to endure a lot of traffic for really, really, really exciting stuff, right? I mean, everybody who's been to a Falcons game, any sporting event, any large event, you're willing to endure it because it's worth it. And it's about what's a good place.
So for the record, I do not drive to a Falcons game. I take MARTA.
Yes, that's very
So
smart.
there's balances, right?
Yeah, you've learned the lesson.
I'll endure some things, but
Yes,
not all
yeah,
things.
Yeah. But to your original question, I think the things that I and our team really anchor around are places that are really easy to engage with personally, places that are walkable, that are really accessible, where you can thread together multiple different destinations, that you can easily go from one thing you want to do to another, and that have opportunity for spontaneity and variation, right? So you like your routines and your habits, but you also like when you try something different, when something new is introduced to you, and you want all of those things always to have the opportunity to include other people. You want the chance to go out to lunch with your colleagues. You want the chance to go out in the evening with your friends. You want to take your kids, and your partner and go do things together. We're a social species.
These are all experiences I'm hearing.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You're
A good place
building
has all those things
Wow.
together. So,
all at one time.
yeah.
So, in case all of you thought you were being spontaneous, it sounds like Johann here is setting it up so you don't have spontaneity.
No, you want.
I'm just kidding,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But you're providing that opportunity for somebody to experience something that they wouldn't see otherwise.
Yeah.
Here's a great example. I go to Brook Run and walk the path that's around Brook Run, and I run into people that I know and end up having conversations, and they could suggest that I do something, or I see the baseball fields over there behind, what is that? North Peachtree, New Peachtree, what's that school that's over there? Peachtree Middle, thank you very much. This is why we have a team here, because I don't remember those names.
Yeah.
So Peachtree Middle has that great baseball field there behind it. Well, I did not really see it until I started walking Brook Run, which gives us opportunity to experience something new.
Yeah.
But we have to get out.
Yeah.
And the willingness to get out has direct impact, whether I'm willing to sacrifice my time, so to speak, into driving someplace or walking someplace for that experience. I think it's brilliant. I didn't know that you were focused on that. I really only thought that the PCID was worried whether 285 and 400 was going to work.
Yeah.
You do so much more and are impacting us in ways that I think are very, very profound. All right, the next question is, I'm always fascinated by this, and I want your perspective on it. What does the perimeter area future look like? And I know that you focus on the Sandy Springs side as well as Dunwoody, but this region is going to have a very interesting future, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think we have had these sorts of arcs over time. The district sort of started in the 70s, the mall, the Gold Kist building, the hospitals, the sort of first period. The 80s and 90s, suddenly a bunch of office buildings, large office buildings. In the mid 2000s or 2010s, we got Park Center, State Farm's headquarters, these like transit-oriented, modern office buildings, and a change towards a more kind of urban built environment and an urban experience.
Yeah.
I think the future will be that those things continue to sort of fill in and there become more and more interesting options in more and more interesting places. The most immediate exciting ones are that Gold Kist building from 50 years ago is being totally overhauled. High Street, which is our kind of, mixed use walkable, people allude to like Avalon sorts of vibes, but those pieces being filled in, that's I think very much the sort of short-term future. The bigger, like longer horizon is that this continues to be really kind of a friend suggested or used this term, I really like this, that this is kind of the capital of the suburbs. This is the area that brings all of those, core needs, those amenities, that shopping, that access, that employment all kind of at its peak. This is where those things are at their most intense, with all of the threads and connections to all of these many, many places that people live. So
this unbelievable description of the space that we're in, because I think that your friend hit it on the head. I'm amazed at how the perimeter, and it is a place, right? The perimeter is seen as that very much defining area of the suburbs, because we are a blend of both residential and commercial and shopping and restaurants.
Yeah.
I think it's really exciting to see it, and I think when High Street opens, it will see a new wave of development, because it'll bring new people into our space. So I'm excited about that. It is a great place to promote, as we do here at Discover Dunwoody, trying to get people to come to our region. I think it's going to be easier and easier. My job, don't tell anybody, but I think it's going to be super easy in about 2 years.
Yeah. I mean,
You were supposed to agree with that. You're like, no, Mark, you got to work hard.
I mean, I think it's fine to have good news on the horizon.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have exciting things going on here, and Dr. Weber, as I will affectionately call him from now on, has his finger on the pulse of what's happening in the transportation in our space. And I think hearing a lot of that was very exciting. So, Johann, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Always nice to catch up. Chat about good places.
Well, you're always welcome to come back. And I do have a feeling we may have updates that we will want to tap you for in the future. So don't be surprised if you see Johann back on this screen again. So, Johann, where can people find you? And I think that folks would be interested in knowing how they can track you down as well as the PCID.
Sure. Yeah, you can always find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the simplest way to reach me. I think we'll put my actual contact information on the video. So
we will.
Go to the show notes. I always wanted to be able to say that. But you can also find information about the PCIDs as well as the Perimeter Connects program at perimetercid.org. It's an easy way to engage. Perimeter Connects also on social, but yeah, I think the website is the best place to go.
Perfect. So thanks for being here. Appreciate that. I'm Mark Galvin, the Director of Marketing here at Discover Dunwoody. We are so glad you joined us today. Our producer is Madison Holtz. Our sound technician is Emily Insor Gibson. On behalf of the entire Discover Dunwoody team, thank you for watching. Be sure to follow us on all our social media sites using the handle Discover Dunwoody, or catch us on our website at discoverdunwoody.com. Until next time, enjoy the day and go out and discover Dunwoody.